in the AutoZone studios. AutoZone. Get in the zone. The halftime of Monday Night Football, which seems to be a recurring theme on this show. Last night it was a mini PTI. There's a show on ESPN in the afternoons called Interruption with two fellows from Washington that were columnists and are columnists for the Washington Post, Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon, and they argue. In essence, they argue, and the question that we have out there... Excuse me?
Forced. A lot of the arguments are forced.
I don't know.
You and I argue because we don't like each other and we don't agree on anything. Those two guys are buddies. I lived in Washington. They're chums. They hang around. They pal around together, which means when they argue, it's forced. It's phony. And the thing is that I don't like it. It's insulting to the audience that they wouldn't pick up on that, and that makes it not entertaining.
Well, you don't like anything unless you're in it, and half the time you don't like that either. 1-877-996-6369. 1-877-99 on Fox. What would you do on Monday night? And let me tell you also that coming up on the show, Bill Maher will be up a little bit later
for
to
Election
talk about
Day,
his new book. And Ken Bernanke, the owner of Stereo Surgeons in East Hartford, Connecticut, has a sign in his shop that says, Gino is God. That would be Gino Auriemma. He is the women's coach at Connecticut. The church in the town want it removed. He's not removing it. We'll talk to him in the next segment. Give us a call.
All kinds of good stuff.
What would you do on Monday Night Football? Or about the Pack and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Dolphins, in my mind, when they're healthy, are a Super Bowl team. Gadsden's been out for them. They had Chris Carter. That did not work last night.
I was thinking that,
horrendous.
I hate to tell you, but Chris, you might want to, do a down and out of Lambeau and right back to the desk at HBO because, wow.
Well, you can't. Football is a full-time job. You can't retire at the end of
and you know that from playing
season.
and working out. How in God's name does he think? See, I can't even attempt to modestly compliment you without that slipping in. But he cannot come out of no training camp, no nothing, and go out there and do that. He may be in fabulous shape for a guy his age to move about society, but not endure what an NFL game brings.
There is no position other than quarterback that is more precise, and you have to be more refined in terms of what kind of shape you're in. Eye-hand coordination. Yeah. Your hands have to be toughened up from catching the ball. That's what training camp's about for a wide receiver. They stand in front of these machines all day to throw the ball about 90 miles an hour. The thought of him coming out of the HBO studio and being sharp is ludicrous. Yeah. And then you got Ray Lucas throwing him the ball, and that's ludicrous. And so, talk about a gift. I would like anybody who called Wayne Root, I would love to know what he gave you last night on the Monday night game.
Yeah, we don't know what Wayne's thing was. Yeah,
it was a stone lock, whatever it was, according to Wayne. But I hope to God. Well, Green Bay. I think we both had Green Bay and Chucky's Keys. But last week, at the end of the week. This was a stone lock, and certainly you would like to think that if you paid for this pick or you paid for something else to get this pick free, that they had given you Green Bay.
One last thing here on these halftime things and the Kornheiser, Wilbon, and everything. Rudy Martzke, who writes the Sports on TV column for USA Today, cannot stop talking about how much he loves Al Michaels and John Madden. I mean, he's trying to get a invite to the ABC Christmas party and took many cheap shots at Dennis Miller, who didn't deserve it and is a friend of mine and the best stand-up in the country. And he took shots at him and then took shots at him, as you brought up, which wasn't fair, long after that thing had already been disbanded and they were on to Madden and Michaels. But I never see anything in Rudy's column about how hideous these halftimes have been. And you know what, Rudy, if you're out there, you owe it to everybody to write something about it. If you're in love with Al and John, fine. But, get your pen moving there about how hideous this halftime has been, because it has.
There's truth to that, and at least write something good about it or bad about it, but write something about it. And that's right.
When you ignore it.
If you took all that time to write about Dennis, and Dennis became a part-time job for Rudy, and true, and Dennis was not to my liking. I said it many times that I didn't think he should be on Monday Night Football, and clearly Rudy pointed that out ad nauseum even after Dennis was off Monday Night Football. Well, if that's what you do for a living, how about flipping on the take a look at what's going on now?
Which is,
you either like it or don't like it, but let's hear something.
That's right. That's right, and he's ignoring it, and it's getting on my yobes.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point, and I hate to give you that, but it's a good point. If the guy came out firing with both barrels, and he did, when they tried an experiment, which was a bold experiment, an exciting experiment that I think failed, and he made it clear that he didn't like it in the beginning, and that it did fail.
And would have been nice.
How about what's going on now?
Right, or to say, it failed, but and for many reasons, as you pointed out, because we've had Dennis on the show before. Not based on Dennis's talents, about not gearing things towards him and using them in the way where you could have got the most bang for your buck, as we just talked about here. Dennis at halftime doing a rant about, thinking of going back, Randy Moss dragging the cop, the female cop or whatever. And if you knew each Monday Dennis was going to be there to go off about whatever has happened goofy in sports that week, would have been great. But when you got LeVar Arrington's feet, and then the 2 weeks later, the video camera showing a guy taking a crap, and that doesn't make Rudy's column. Come on, Rudy, you can do better than that.
All right, let's take some calls. 1-877-996-6369, 1-877-99 on Fox. Let's go to Sherry. Sherry, you're on with Kiley and Booms.
Hi.
Hey, Sherry.
Listen, I was outside and I came back in.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know. I thought, I had something queued up to change the channel? I didn't even know what I was watching. But you know what I do like?
What did you do when you saw that? I mean,
I checked to make sure that I had on the right channel.
And weren't they a little hard to look at visually, and doesn't that matter to you?
Well, I didn't pay any attention to that, but I know what you're talking about. Because I watched the other on ESPN.
Right.
Occasionally.
Right.
Anyway, I like the miking up of the players.
Right.
Also, you know what would be really good to bring?
What?
Other people in that don't know the game, women and other people, because I have this all the time. I try to get my friends interested in football, is as you review the plays before the half, during the plays from the first half.
The highlights.
Yes. Explain that. Explain the ref's call, etc. Not ad nauseum, but
you have to put a little humor or something in there, because otherwise that would drag.
Right, right. But every week they should have a little bit on how the game is played and what certain calls mean.
Right.
Dear, well, most of us have a basic working knowledge of the game, so...
Well,
she does, too, but she's talking about her friends who she would want to try to watch.
That's right. You're talking about some Neanderthal woman who has no idea.
Shelley, if I could set you up on a date with Tony Kornheiser, do you think you could bring yourself to kiss that guy?
I don't think so.
Thank you, Sherry. That's enough. And that's mean, Booms, and that's just vile. You're a bad guy.
Yeah, I know.
All right, coming up, Kiley and the Bad Guy will welcome Ken Bernanke, the owner of Stereo Surgeons in East Hartford, Connecticut. If you're on the line, hang on.
Yep.
We'll pick it up on the backside. We're also going to talk about the firing of Bobby Williams later on, and we have Bill Maher, so stick around.
Election day. If you haven't voted...